Well, hello. It's been a while since I did a ParaMedical tattoo podcast, and I'm really, really excited to bring the newest episode with somebody I've known for quite some time. Karen, thank you for sharing this space with me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is long overdue for both of us. We have been talking for long enough that I'm glad that we're actually recording this now.
Awesome. Why don't you tell everybody how we met?
So I think we met online, if I'm not mistaken, but through maybe a support group or somewhere online because we both have the BRCA mutation. However, you have BRCA1, I have BRCA2. So high hereditary risk for multiple cancers, including breast cancer and ovarian cancer, to name a couple, as well as pancreatic cancer and skin cancer and gift that keeps on giving. But it connected us, which is fabulous. And
Yeah.
then we ended up traveling, I think, both together to Edmonton, and we both gave a talk there, which was really powerful for both of us to be there as speakers. So, and we've just kept in touch through the years as fellow Canadians.
Yeah, because you were doing the BRCA Sisterhood, I think, that
Yeah,
was right around then. And then we were both invited separately to present at the HBOC conference, the Hereditary Breast and Ovarian
yeah,
Conference in Edmonton. In I think that was 2014 or something,
I
was
think
it?
you're right. Yeah.
And then we went out for dinner with that doctor who was doing the Heritex, and he was like, we're going to find the markers, the genetic markers for breast cancer in this group because of the monitoring that we did
Yeah.
because of risk reduction, cancer risk reduction and stuff. And that led that ended up leading us both to getting prophylactic mastectomy. So you got yours before me. I think I did my prophylactic mastectomy, which means preventative mastectomy, and that is for um risk management, cancer risk management is what they call it, right? I did mine in 2012. When did you do yours? Like, what led you to having a mastectomy?
So I had my double mastectomy after I had my ovaries removed, actually, but I had them in, my mastectomy was in 2009.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so quite, I mean, I was a young mom. My kids were 18 months and almost 4. And I found out because my cousin on my father's side of the family was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And because you can get, as you know, the BRCA mutation or any, cancer mutation from either your mother or your father. And through his cousin being diagnosed, my father went for testing, found out he was positive, led to my testing. In 2009, nobody was really talking about it. So I had doctors telling me to exercise and eat healthy and not to worry about it. But I felt like a, ticking time bomb. So I underwent risk reducing surgeries, a double, you know, risk reducing double mastectomy and ovary removal, as well as a full hysterectomy, which means removal of the cervix and the uterus.
So my mother she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2006, I believe, late six or maybe late 2005, early 2006. And we lost her at the end of 2008. And they were trying to roll her through, like, oh, she said she was having pain. And they're like, oh, it's menopause, cut down on gluten, cut down on drinking. And she just kept saying, like, something is wrong with my body.
Something's
I
wrong.
need
Yeah.
somebody that can listen to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
by the time they did um ultrasound, because they wouldn't even do an ultrasound on her. By the time
Yeah.
they finally did an ultrasound, they found an 8-pound tumor on her left ovary. And
Wow.
so, of course, they took everything and they did the crazy chemo bath and some treatments that we're not going to get into because some of those treatments are crazy. And it's crazy watching someone you love go through them. And it scares you out of wanting to go through them yourself. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
get ahead of this. So they found that she was BRCA1 positive like 10 days after she died. And then by the time I got home from the funeral, I had letters from the Canadian Cancer Society. We need to go get tested, see genetic counselor, and then we're going to send you to see a genetic doctor. And then all of a sudden, your entire life changes, right? Did
Yeah.
you have a
Yeah.
similar experience?
You're just thrown into this health world where, the day before you were healthy and now all of a sudden you're undergoing all of these tests and to find out if you're still healthy before you do extreme surgeries to remove body parts to stay healthy. It's really a bit of a mind game.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, so by the time they did, so right away I was motivated by grief, grief motivates you. And
yeah,
I was like, well, I feel like this is a get out of jail free card because I just buried my mom a few weeks ago, and I saw what it did to her. I was by her bedside, like she was a strong woman and it kicked her ass. And so I was like, just send me for the blood work. Like I just demanded that they did that
yeah,
because they wanted me to think about it for a while before I even did the blood work. I'm like, I just watched my mother die. Send me for the blood work. I can handle it. And then of course I
yeah.
had a positive response. And then they start sending you for the diagnostics. And in me, they found a mass. So a huge mass in one of my breasts. And I was just like, take them, like just get rid of them.
Like you really preempted cancer there.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they thought it was precancerous, but they didn't tell me that it came back with any markers or anything. So I must have just kind of nipped
Yeah,
it.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I know I just kind of felt I did what I had to do to live a long life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will tell you that because of course this threw me into mastectomy tattooing. I was already doing mastectomy tattooing, but this made me like just really want to focus on this aspect of things. And I will tell you that pretty much every client that I had supported that decision because they always ask me like, well, what cancer did you have? And I'm like, I didn't have cancer. I did preventative measures because I have this gene. And they're like, if I could have done preventative measures, I would have too. Like, so at least we can take some solace in knowing
yeah.
that it probably.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely now, I mean, I've never had any regrets. I did, however, I had a little bit of survivor's guilt because I've met so many people along the way that I've loved and lost who never had that opportunity to find out. And so it took me a few years to really understand that, our story is all relative to what we live. And that I'm going to own my story for the bravery that I faced, and that I'm not comparing it to somebody who is diagnosed with cancer. But at the same time, I'm going to stop trivializing the fact that what I did wasn't brave. And so, for the last, I would say, easily 10 or longer years, I've really been confident in my decision, and I don't need that confirmation from others. However, I find as the years go on, more women say, "Oh, of course I would do that," because they know more. And so I think that's a true testament to people like you and I who talked about it long before it was a little bit more discussed within the health community.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were just barely even acknowledging genetic testing.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
yeah, it's been a different world. I'm kind of glad that we were both kind of at the forefront of this movement and we've seen how it's changed and seen
Yeah.
how tattooing can help people so much. So
Yeah.
because you got tattooed, right? So what led you to the decision to get tattooed on your scars?
Well, I've always loved tattoos. I was like that cool badass at 18 years old who was like getting my first tattoo from like the guys in downtown Montreal with like the cigarette hanging out of their face and no gloves and the dreadlocks. And you walk into the shop and you're so proud and you knock in and they open up the door and you point to the wall and you're like, this one is mine, this little flash. So I've come a long way, but I've always loved tattoos. And At the very beginning, when I underwent my double mastectomy, I didn't have a choice to keep my nipples. There was no option for it. They removed your nipples and they removed your areolas, and I was okay with that. But before I had had the surgery, I remember saying, I don't want to stop until at least I'm finished with nipples. That was my first, having not gone through it, that was what I felt. But almost immediately after I had my surgery, kind of didn't care anymore. I just wanted to heal. And then I underwent 8 additional surgeries and complications, and I was not interested for sure in nipple reconstruction because I didn't want to have another surgery. And I wasn't interested in a nipple tattoo because why would I get a picture of something? I would rather get something beautiful done. So I searched online and there was really, I think, one picture that I found of a woman with a tattoo, but there was no face or anything. Anyways, I went to a few different artists, and as you know, you really need to connect with a tattoo artist. It's not just about their talent, it's also about how you feel with them. Met with a few different artists, and then I always say I started my love affair with my artist who, became my friend Megan Gobe. She actually closed her books now. She just had a baby and she's enjoying mommyhood. But she and I just really connected, and her grandmother had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and she was really excited about this project, not just because it was like a pretty image, but she just loved the whole idea of it. So I decided, I think it was in 2016. I could be wrong, but or 2017. And so I got this beautiful tattoo, and then I continued to add to it. So it's a total of 14 hours. And I only tattooed one side because I really like seeing the beginning and the after, if that makes sense. I sort of don't mind seeing the scarring on one side because I see the beauty on the other. So it masks the side that isn't tattooed. And I realized how powerful I felt when I looked in the mirror. I wasn't seeing that same trauma because it's not like your breasts are on your back. You're facing your reflection daily. And even if you don't have a mirror, you look down to tie your shoes and you're faced with your chest. And so that constant reminder can really become quite emotionally taxing. And so I really, when I saw this beautiful tattoo, I realized that I had reclaimed what I thought I had lost. And I figured I have to give this back to others and see what I can do to help provide other women with this amazing cathartic healing experience and create beauty on their terms.
Yeah, because it's like you really don't understand unless you've been there. And honestly, neither you or I have cancer trauma. So how I've
Exactly.
tried to create beauty in the world is by helping other artists do good, help them understand what we've been through, and create some products that also support them in being better. I'm like, I was also driven to kind of create some change in that. Um, so what have you been doing with it then? Like how are
So
you helping people?
So what I decided is that I've got to somehow give back, and I Googled and found this like small little organization based in Colorado, run by this wonderful man, Noel, who had nothing to do at all with tattoo artists or tattooing, but his sister-in-law, I believe, had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and he just happened to love tattoos. And she said that she wanted to cover her scars, and from that birthed his idea he called P Ink, which was personal ink. So they were providing complimentary mastectomy tattoos to anyone who had undergone a mastectomy. And they were in the United States, and every October they would have these events in different states throughout the USA. And there was nothing like it in Canada, or there was, but it was, I think you knew about it at the time. Maybe this is also partially how we connected because I think there was one in Calgary.
Well, okay, so I one of the girls that I've known in tattooing since I met her in 99, her name is Jen Carmian, and she's from New Jersey, and she was invited to go and take part in P Ink's first event up in New York. And so she
Okay.
up there and she did this really cool little tattoo. And then I saw her at a national tattoo convention like following that, shortly following that, maybe she did it in October and I saw her in April at the national show. And she was like, Stace, you would really like this, you know? And
Yeah.
well, so my introduction to mastectomy tattooing was by a couple other girls that Jen also knows. So Vivine Lazonga is like the mastectomy tattoo
Yes. She's-
OG, in my
Yep.
opinion. And
She really is. She was doing it long before more people knew about it.
probably in the 80s when me and you were in elementary school, you
Yeah.
know?
I think she was some of the very first mastectomy tattoo
Yes.
images I shared on my Instagram because she was the only one who was really normalizing it at the time.
Yeah. And so she was also friends with and working with Mary Jane Hawk, who was kind of the lady who really pioneered um, camouflage tattoo, paramedical tattooing. She
Okay.
worked with some surgeons a long time ago, around then, maybe in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, like before I know, like I don't know the timeline because I was way too young.
Yeah.
And she was one of the ones who made the first tattoo numbing product with some surgeons that she worked with. And so Mary Jane
Interesting.
and Vivine came together, and in 2006 um, they did a seminar at the national convention, and I went to it. I went to a lot of those national shows. They were like the first tattoo convention in North America. And I took this convention. Now I did my first scar cover up tattoo in 1998 or 99 when I was just only tattooing for like 3 years. And
Mhm.
like I was just starting out. I didn't even know how much I didn't know at that time.
Yeah.
So in 2006, I'd already been doing scar cover-ups for about, 7 years. And I saw these guys and they were talking about mastectomy. And I was like, oh, because that's when my mom was getting diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was aware of cancer. And then immediately God dropped these ladies and this opportunity to take this seminar in my lap. And I was like, nobody's doing this in Canada. So 2006, I'm like, I'm going to do some focus work because now I understand cancer. I lost my
Yeah.
mom. Blah. I did not know at that time that this was going to become my entire world. I just thought it was a way I could help people. And
Exactly.
I was tattooing over 10 years. So I was like, I'm ready for a challenge. And this is a
Mhm.
challenge. And
Yep.
I was like, I brought it to Canada. So then when I talked to Jen, so she was probably at that seminar too, because she was friends with those ladies too. And that she was like, yeah, this guy Noel's doing this thing. So
Yeah.
I called Noel and talked him into letting me bring it into Canada. And I
So you stalked him like I did, but you stalked him before I did, which is why I would imagine it was much easier for him to agree to let me bring it to Montreal after you had already brought it to Canada. So thank you, my friend.
yeah, because it was different back then. Now it's everywhere, and people are just like, it's always been like this. Like, no, it
Yeah,
has not.
it
So
hasn't.
Sam, my protege, she did an event at her little private studio on Vancouver Island.
I
I did
remember
an
that.
event in Calgary, and then it was just like I was like almost like the bug bit me. I was like, once you see how much, and I still didn't know I was
The
getting a mastectomy,
impact.
or no, maybe it was right after I was getting my mastectomy. Anyways, once you're like, you understand how powerful this tattooing is, you're like, I
Yeah,
want to help everybody. I want to help everybody. I want to help
exactly.
every tattoo artist have this experience with their client, and I want to help every survivor have this experience with their tattoo artist.
So true. So true. And, so I only started, I think, I started much later with personal ink, because I think I only got my mastectomy tattoo. I don't remember. I have to look, but maybe 8 years ago. So, or 9 years ago. So I only brought it into Montreal once I had undergone that tattoo. As soon as I did that, I was like, yeah, count me in. So I did that, and I loved it. It was every October. It was in one shop. I started small. The first year I had two people because it wasn't about quantity. It was really about quality. Um, but then I realized as a few years passed is that I wanted to do it a little bit more often than just in October. I find that we're inundated with breast cancer during October. And that's not the time where you want to jam every single thing into 1 month. You know, breast cancer is 12 months a year. And so I wanted to do it more often. I also realized it was harder to fundraise when you're working with an American organization, you know, just the actual ins and outs are just difficult. And so um, I decided in 2022 that I was going to start my own organization in Canada so that it's just easier. And I still like, hey, I love Personal Ink. I think they're fabulous. They were like the pioneers of this for the most part. And it
Oh,
started with one guy who
yeah,
just wanted to make a difference.
yeah,
And I still recommend women who can't travel to my locations to go check out Personal Ink. Um, I find them a wonderful organization. They're just have to wait once a year is when they do it, and that's that. And
and
so
they
I
changed
wanted to
it.
do more
So
often.
P Inc. was on its own. No one wanted to step back. So the first kind of video that came out was, I think it was called, and if anybody watches this, you can look it up, Molly's Story. Like
Yes, that's
story.
his
That was the
sister-in-law, I
first video.
believe.
Mhm. And so that was a beautifully done little video, so
Beautiful.
inspiring and gorgeous. And then like Noah lost the personal connection. Molly went on with her life. P Inc.
Exactly.
became this multiple location thing, and he was like, wow, I don't really know if I'm the guy to run this anymore. And then I
Yeah,
don't think that's when he brought in like Karen Richards or started handing things over. And it kind of outgrew itself pretty quickly. Like
yeah,
everybody wanted to have a location. Like, let's do we'd like to have a location here. We want to do, let's host an event at our location. And now
yeah.
there's like, I don't know, 40 different locations, but it outgrew itself pretty quick. And fuck cancer came in.
Yeah, then it was taken over and became a program of Let's Fuck Cancer.
Yeah, so let's fcancer.org, I think, is their organization, and P
It
Inc.
is.
Oh, a
Because I
program.
worked with them for 1 year when they were a part of that.
Right. I was at the merger conversation. They flew me down to LA, and they put a couple of us girls up in this little really cool little house in Ventura Beach.
I
And then
remember that time that you guys did that.
yeah, because it was right around when we met. I think that was kind of
Yep.
happening. And so
No, that was not when you and I had met before
oh
that.
no, it was like, yeah, this was closer. It was like a little bit closer,
This
2017,
was before COVID, yeah.
but not too long before COVID. So anyways, I do remember all that conversation, and what if we have this and we can do better fundraising and all of that. And Canada just didn't make sense anymore. They weren't really interested.
Exactly. Exactly. So again, you know what? I totally get that. And that's cool. That's why I decided I was gonna go out on my own. And now one of, I think, the reasons why it's successful is because I oversee every location.
So it takes somebody who knows how to organize, and working with tattoo
Yep.
artists is a little bit like herding cats. I know this. I'm
It
terrible at
is.
organizing. That is definitely my shortcoming.
So it is at the beginning. But what happens when you are in charge of it all? You need to, I don't mean you, I mean like the person who is in charge needs to understand that you are the organizer, not the tattoo artists. They are not organizers. They are giving of their time and giving of their talent. And the only reason you follow up with them is to make sure they've been in touch with their recipient, that they have sent the image at least a week before the event, that you know, the connection is good before you connect them. That's what's important in order to be successful at running a program like this, which is Canada wide. And truthfully, I will go into the States if I have women who ask me to, because we have women who come from the US for these Empower Inc. days.
Mhm.
And so I just want to make sure that every location that we do, I'm the go-to person. I'm foot on the ground and sort of the one there to organize. And even if it's an event that I'm doing in Toronto and I'm not there right away, it doesn't matter. I find the photographer there, or I ask one of the artists if they know, great, give me their phone number. I don't involve the masterpieces, the masterpiece creators, meaning you guys, right? Like that's what you're doing. You're creating a masterpiece for a survivor. And I want your focus to be on that. I want you to be so excited about the event and not have to worry about any of the planning.
I appreciate that. As somebody who's not like, I get on fire for planning and I get all excited and I think of all these great ideas, and
Yeah.
I'm really good at supporting the artist. So like, here's the
Hmm.
situations you're going to face. You have to be ready for the trauma triggers. You know, I'm really good at supporting the artist through the energetics of working over a trauma site, but organizing, man, I just fall apart. So that's where I have failed. That's like it's just my weak point, you know. I'm not afraid to
Well,
admit it, but
but you know,
so I
your
really value people. So let me finish. I really value people that can organize because I do not have that mindset.
yeah.
It is a
Well, I mean, I value people who can create the art. I mean, like, I really wish I could do that. But at the end of the day, um, I just know that a stress-free tattoo artist makes a really good partner in these types of events. And it's true. I mean, it's like with any business, with any art, with any, you need to be in that comfort zone. And as it is, when you bring in a new tattoo artist who, yes, is very good with scars and comfortable with breast cancer, but has never done a full mastectomy tattoo, they tell me themselves they're nervous. They're not nervous to make a mistake with the artwork. They're nervous about the emotional connection they're going to make sure that they don't say the wrong thing. What if the recipient cries? So they're nervous because they also want to make it perfect. And
yeah.
that's okay too.
Well, in tattooing scar tissue is intimidating. We
Yeah.
can cause new scar tissue formation. We can make the scars worse. We can cause a lot of damage, you know, like it actually, I think most tattoo artists don't understand um, uh, that tattooing over scars can make them worse. And so um, the ones who do understand that, we just put a lot of pressure on ourselves, right? We're like, oh, if I make it, oh
I
God, oh God. I call that a healthy respect, not a fear, you know,
Well,
but
that's it. That's it. So, and you know, I speak with my artists first. I screen them. You know, I generally make the connection with the owners of the shop first, and they know they're artists. And so, you know, usually when I bring in a new shop, it's because the owner has already been a part of another event. And so they already know what it's all about. And they're the ones who will say, you know, I don't know if this person is right for it. I think this one's too nervous, or like, oh my God, this one's going to be great at even more than you think. Right?
yeah. And for me, after like I've been doing mastectomy tattoos for, oh my gosh, 2006 is almost 20 years. Oh my
Yep.
God. And I definitely have learned to communicate better and better over the years. And I'm definitely very quick to say I'm actually not a good fit for this one. I would seek more communion over here. And a lot of artists, you know, just don't really we don't give ourselves permission to be that honest and vulnerable a lot of the times.
But
People,
don't you think that also comes with experience and confidence?
yeah, and kind of going through it ourselves. Like
Right?
I
Like
know
I'm sure like
on that
20
table.
year ago Stacie is not this, you know, 20 year ago Stacie-Rae, you know, maybe less experienced than like Stacie-Rae of 2025
Yeah.
is not the same person.
Yeah, and then going through my own mastectomy and my own complications, my own emergency surgeries, my own.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about this real quick because it is a part of our motivation. And so I lost my breast reconstruction because they recalled my implants. And I was so afraid after that of going through more surgeries. It just scared me so much that they were like, let's put new implants in you. And I was like, no, no more. So they actually handed me back my implants in a freaking baggie with my tattoos attached.
Do you still have them?
No, oh my God, no. I'm packing, no, dude. I was like, more.
I didn't get mine back because I also had to remove my toxic implants that were trying to kill us.
So you swap them. I decided to stay flat, and that's kind of like, so we have a different experience of that.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about like what made you swap them? Because didn't we not both have those gummy bear
Textured.
ones? We did, right? We had the
Yes,
same.
but they were textured.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so those were known to cause a rare type of lymphoma, but then it became less rare as the years went on, or basically that it was, they just started getting more statistics. On top of that, there's something called breast implant illness. And so a lot of women with breast implants, regardless of whether you've had breast cancer or not, can develop these symptoms that are really hard to diagnose. And they're realizing that it's the toxins from the implants. So that being said, why did I put these implants back in? Sometimes I think I'm a sucker for punishment, honestly, because if I could live without breasts, I would take them out. But I know for myself to be happy in my body and to be happy emotionally in my head, I need to have implant or something that makes me look like I have breasts. And so I swapped out the toxic ones, made sure that I was healthy, and I put in ones that don't show as much, you know, that they cause as many problems. And so I could always choose to take them out again. However, for myself, um, I don't regret the decision, but it was quite difficult. And I'm sort of brushing over it because I think this is a much longer conversation and a different discussion. But just to have to remove them and the trauma of going through that again was difficult. But again, I don't regret it. And I'm still happy that I have new implants.
I do believe that I have to agree with that. If I felt that it was reasonable for me to swap the implants and still have implants, I would. Removing them, and especially because I had under the muscle, so my muscle is bunched up here and down here, and there's nothing in between. So I'm permanently disfigured, and I am having a really hard time mentally with it. And
Mhm,
the cost to my mental health, the trauma of that, and not believing that I had the choice because of how sick my implants were making me,
mhm.
it's taken a huge toll on me. And I get that people don't understand that. And, people really, unfortunately, we're in a world that people really do judge what they don't understand. And then
Mhm.
they put a lot of voice and fire behind those judgments. And you're just
Yeah,
kind of like, you really don't have a right to that opinion unless you've been there yourself. So
exactly.
I'm really still struggling. It's been 5 years, and
Yeah.
I really do still struggle with that. So that is a good point to kind of mention. I am a little bit jealous in a good way, because jealousy has a bad side, but it also has.
Yeah. No, but I understand.
I wish that there was a way that I could have maintained having breasts, but when they were like, we're going to swap your breast implants out and give you new ones. And I was just like, what are you going to do? Recall them? Like, I was just too mad about the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I completely understand. And I'm so sorry that you still suffer from that. And the one great thing about remaining flat is that you ever do decide that you do want to reconstruct, God willing, maybe in 5 years there's another option that isn't as traumatizing. I mean, you never know. I'm just saying things change, but I also think as you live more in your own skin, you learn to become more comfortable with it. And
Yeah.
I think that people think that that's a change that happens right away, but unfortunately, real change and real acceptance takes years and decades, and we're all just a work in progress.
Yeah. I mean, like grief, healing, it comes in waves. Grief comes in waves. I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of people really understand how much grieving there actually is to do around losing your breasts. And so I'm really grateful to have this conversation with you right now in a vulnerable way, but still a way that
Yeah.
we're willing to share publicly, because, you know, we really try to like adhere to the good vibes only kind of thing, which likes to brush over mental
Yeah.
health issues. Even though there was a whole semicolon movement a few years ago and everyone's like, oh, yay for mental health, people are still terrible to people that are suffering from.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
They are. They really are. But it's so interesting to me because at the end of the day, you would never say to somebody who has, for example, an amputation or a prosthetic. You would never say to somebody who has an amputation who is in a wheelchair, well, why don't you have an artificial limb? How come you can't walk? Why is it any different when you say, well, so why don't you just put breasts in? Or you know what? So you had your breast removed. You get implants. They'll be better than your naturals. Well, I know people feel the need to fill the void with positivity, but this is an amputation and not enough people use that word. It's an amputation.
I had a whole group of girls come up against me when I started using that word, and now it's being used more publicly, and I didn't back down, but they're like, "That's
Yep.
so harsh, Stacie. That's such a bad attitude. You're such a bitch," or whatever. I'm like, but it's true, and I'd really like you to understand. Why don't you explore the truth of the statement before judging the person who's saying it? Because you haven't been on that operating table. You haven't been
Well,
in the hospital and trying to heal those scars, and then the complications can be really life-threatening
mhm,
sometimes.
yeah,
I almost like there's a piece of this that I haven't told anybody. They nicked a vein when they removed my remove my implants, because sorry, I stutter a little bit sometimes when it's nervous. I'm like nervous to
yeah,
talk about this. But they did nick a little vein, because I did
mhm,
want the capsules out just like you did, because the capsules become toxic and then the body attacks,
exactly.
and they nicked a vein, and I ended up losing so much blood I almost died. And that really
Traumatizing.
completely traumatizing, and it really threw me out of my connection with my body, just in that, like, now I have to stay alive thing, and it's like it's been really hard to come back into my body. So I I just avoid intimacy, and it's a kind of the unfortunate
Which is sad because we're all so beautiful, but we can't see it through the trauma we've experienced sometimes.
I've been single for over 7 years, almost 8. It might be 8 years now, and I've been celibate for that time as well. I'm just
Yeah.
like, no, I don't think I can. Just don't touch me. Just quick hugs, and I'm like, I just have a really hard time in my body, and it's
You
been.
know, and you know what's so sad about that is that not only that you still feel that way, but that you are not the minority.
Yeah, true.
That's what I've perceived. I have seen, because I've been doing this program for 8 years and because, or 9 years almost, 200 women and one man, or over 200 and one man has come through this program. I've had really beautiful conversations with so many women while they're getting their tattoos, and you're not the minority.
So you really shone a light on that, and thank you for your effort. You really shone a light on that in your new book. That's what your new book is all about. Tell us about your.
Yes, it is. It's about rediscovering beauty after a mastectomy. That's what it is. It's about trying to feel comfortable in your skin. And so, I've been doing this for 8, 9 years, and now I'm very excited that, I'm officially nonprofit. And so thank you. So we're continuing to grow with the goal of expanding into every province and to get into the US in certain areas, because right now we have women from the US who come to my programs within Canada. But, I want to expand so that everybody has that opportunity. But people don't understand that tattoos really are a form of therapy. And even women who have never had tattoos before, when they come through this Empower Ink Day, after they leave, they understand it. So I figured that putting a book together would be the best way to actually show what this program's all about. So I printed basically this beautiful book. I didn't print it, I published
Wait a
this
second.
beautiful book.
Hold
It
on.
is called
Is that you on the cover topless?
It is, baby.
I'm
My boob.
sorry to interrupt you, but you put yourself topless on the, but I've seen that picture before. Where did I
Yes.
see that before? I am
Well,
so sorry
this,
to interrupt your story, Karen, but tell us about this picture of you topless that you went public
okay.
everywhere.
I know. So I always joke that my boob broke the internet. I actually was invited by Inked magazine to New York City, um, 8 years ago or 7 years ago, along with 11 other women. I was the only Canadian, and I was the only one who underwent a risk-reducing double mastectomy. So I represented that, which was really great. And they invited all of us to this like fancy schmancy photo studio down by the water. And I think it was called Pier 50, I forget something, where all like the fancy models go. And they did this beautiful issue of Inked magazine called Inked for a Cause. So you can check it out online. And they called us the Dazzling Dozen, which is pretty awesome. In the book is the picture of all 12 of us, so you will see that. And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna show what started this whole concept for me. So that's why I'm there. But the book is really a labor of love, of testimonials of all the people who have come through the program. And in the back, there is all the information about nipple backs because I love your temporary nipple tattoos.
Thank you. Yeah, I made those when I started designing them when I was waiting for my mastectomy. And then
Yeah.
after my mastectomy, I really just was like, okay, I'm doing this right now. I drew them for my own first book and really just kind of hit the market with it. But I never went topless in the cover of a magazine or the cover.
Yeah, I feel it was like a bucket list item that I never had, if that makes sense, because I always joke that like if anyone watches Friends, I'm like Chandler when he takes pictures, he's like, oh, cool, and then the camera cuts, and I'm like, you know. So I never really thought that, but again, pre-double mastectomy, I'm not that person who's flashy and out there. Like even you can see with my shirt today, like I was never boobalicious and I never was, that flamboyant with, racy clothes. So the fact that I actually was topless in a magazine that was in countries all over the world is pretty remarkable as to what this tattoo did for my own self-confidence.
I picked up a copy of that magazine at a tattoo convention that I gave a seminar on areola tattooing at
Yeah.
in New York. And the magazine was there. And before that, I wrote 3 different articles for that same magazine. One of them on tattoos saved my life. One of them about healing tattoos. I wrote
Yeah.
3 different articles for that same
Love it.
magazine. So they're really supporting what we're doing
They
here.
really are.
So I went and I saw you. I was like, there she's just right.
I know.
So
I'm
I
really proud of it.
everybody, they were right by the front door. So everybody coming into that tattoo convention saw you
Right?
topless as
Oh,
white lady.
yay. Yeah. I've acquired a few more pieces of ink since then. I look now, I'm like my arms were like completely bare. Now they're not. Yeah.
Awesome. So where can we get your book and how can we support your charity?
Okay, so thank you for asking. I appreciate that. It is a labor of love. And the book that I created, not only is it there just, for anyone to see that there is beauty after cancer diagnosis, but all the proceeds raised go towards EmpowerInk and its program. So not only does the money go towards creating more tattoo days, but I also am in partnership with a wellness center, a cancer wellness center, um, just off the island of Montreal, and they provide free services for all breast cancer survivors. So the money raised goes to both the tattoos and to all of the services. Um, my website, EmpowerInk, if you want to see some of the beautiful days, there's a gallery in there. So it's EmpowerInk, as in tattoo ink.ca. You can see beautiful galleries of past events over the years. And if you're interested in donating, every penny there as well goes to all the programs. My book, Beauty on My Terms, is on Amazon. All you have to do is type that in or type in my name, Karen Malkin. It's available in the US, Canada, the UK, France, New Zealand, and Australia.
I'm so for you. It's so nice. Like, it's been so lovely just to have met you like we did. And, we
I
got along
know.
right away as soon as we met. We were like fast friends, and we've just had a lot of laughs over the years
We
here
have.
and there. And
And I know this is the beginning now. Like, I know you and I have been saying we want to do stuff together for a while. And I think this is the start of like some fun ideas, in my goals to head out, head out of Quebec and Ontario. That's my next goal. So I think you and I will hopefully be talking and seeing each other a little bit sooner than later.
I would love that. You know what else I would love? And I never thought about this until you just kind of said it, just talking with you here and listening to you talk about how much of a labor of love this is. I wonder if you would consider me as a recipient, because my tattoo has been cut up. They gave me back my implants with my freaking tattoos attached to them. So traumatic. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's highly unethical, and I will deal with that trauma later, because right now I'm
Wow.
with the fact that I almost just died in the hospitals.
Yeah,
And so so I had a beautiful mastectomy tattoo done by Samantha-Rae, and she and it really did give me a pep in my step. I didn't realize I
yeah,
need, like, I loved it. I love my body for the first time ever. So losing that has been a really,
I
really,
bet.
really hard on me. So I'm wondering if I could regain a little bit of that by getting my tattoos fixed, because I've just been so avoidant of this whole area, because I've just, like, I got some emotional healing to do still.
I
And
bet.
and maybe that could be like a final step for me. Like, maybe maybe that would be the thing that really helped me feel like in my body again. It was really fucking hard, people don't really understand that.
No, they don't.
I would love to feel that confidence. I wish that I would have been a recipient for implant reconstruction, but the damage that my implants did to me have made it so that I don't think I'm a recipient for any kind of reconstruction. They tore me up so bad. Like, I almost died from, like, they've just done so much damage to my
Yeah.
chest, to
And
my
who wants to go
muscles.
back into that? I'm so sorry that you have to have that shitty lived experience, really. Self-esteem is so important for ourselves. I haven't really thought about it up until now because the truth is that this is the first time it's come up. Um, we focus on women who have bare chests, but, you know, since the recall of these implants and so many women having to remove them and now go through a new trauma like yourself, um, it's an interesting avenue to look at. And it's given me something to think about. And I do like the concept of it. So let's put that on a private burner
Okay.
and to not be discussed necessarily in an open podcast.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I didn't expect to get emotional, but sometimes I can't help
I know, but this is one of the reasons why I give back the way that I do. And so, again, I hadn't really thought about it. I just recently opened this up to women with large lumpectomies. So I think that it can take other avenues. Um,
Well, maybe I
and
can be an exception to your rule if
yeah,
you feel like exploring, like, does this seem like a right fit or doesn't it? And
yeah,
maybe I'm just like a testing ground or
yeah. Let's talk about this
something.
offline. I think it's a very interesting proposition.
Awesome. Well, you just got me so excited about everything that you're doing and how passionate you are about it. So thank you so much for having this conversation with me today.
My
And
pleasure. And I think our connection, although, yes, we have our own connection with our diagnosis. We always had that kind of connection since we met as well. So I'm really glad that, we're able to have an open and honest and raw conversation. I always say, like, I get emotional, but I'm not a big crier anymore. And I think that's part of the menopause kicking in. No, but all kidding aside, like to have such a raw conversation is difficult. And I think that this gives someone else a little bit more bravery than maybe they thought they had before.
Yeah, let's hope, because that's the whole thing about, we've talked about this before when I asked you if you'd be willing to kind of like come on here, and I almost thought about abandoning it. I just life gets in the way, and life
Yeah,
can get you down sometimes, and yeah, just thinking about, because I think what we both do is we have taken the pain that we've gone through from our personal experiences and then used it for motivation to, even if we just help that one person feel better about their body. And really, it's like, unfortunately, this level of vulnerability is usually what it takes. And there's a lot of bravery and vulnerability. So
yeah,
thank you for giving me a
there
safe
is.
to allow myself to be emotional about this, and for helping so many others and making a book about them overcoming these things. And
I know.
it's been really nice to see you do so much
Thank
for
you so
this
much.
field.
Thank you. Thank you. I just think it's just a labor of love that I've been a little lucky and a little aggressive with how I make sure I get my point out there, but I think I've just been supported in the right ways and just know that, helping for the greater good, both of us.
Yeah, yeah. EmpowerInk.ca.
Yeah. Thank you so much, my friend.
Yes, thank you. And we will pick up this conversation. Maybe I'll do a little follow-up with you next year and see how far you've come in your efforts to take over the world.
I love it. Maybe I'll take you along for the ride.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm
Thank
so
you.
grateful for this conversation.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Stay tuned, everybody, for I think we'll have more podcast episodes in the future, and we'll be talking about some hard to talk about topics. I'll see y'all next time.